I gotta get my glasses. I'm going to get my glasses, guys. I'll be right back. I don't look at the camera, so you guys know I'm not good at this. Oh, where are my sunglasses? No! Here they go. All right. You guys know I'm shitty looking at the camera. Yeah, the room's shitty. Hello, everyone. It's your girl, Columbia. How are you? I'm fine. Let's get into it. So, our dear Contra. So, once again, our dear Contra has gotten into a little bit of shit. Can I be heard? Am I being heard? I don't even know. I've never used webcam before, so we're about to find out. No one knows I'm live. Hi, everyone. This is about to be some ugly shit. So, I've been off of Twitter lately for my own, personal health reasons. I just don't want to deal with it. It's just a lot. So, I've been getting all my Twitter news, secondhand, right? I started a new job. I'm not in the headspace for Twitter. So I've been getting all my Twitter news secondhand, particularly from the Great Pirate Solomon. Big ups. So, what I heard a couple of days ago was that, once again, Twitter is in an uproar at Contra over an individual she had in her video doing VO, and that was Buck Angel. Now, for those of you who, I don't know who Buck Angel is necessarily. I only know it secondhand. He was a big, they, I'm going to say they because I don't know Buck Angel's gender preference, so sorry about that. They were a really big trans activist in the 80s and 90s. And that's all I know. Okay. But I've heard from other accounts that this person has been a scam artist. This person has hurt the trans community in other ways. This person doesn't acknowledge non-binary people. So there's that too. So Contra has been getting a lot of shit for having that person in a video. And again, faceless VO. Voiceover for those who don't know. Now, for everyone who knows me, you know I really dig ContraPoints. I always fully admit I'm a fan of ContraPoints. I've had a couple interactions with her. She's super nice. I think that ContraPoints is one of the best content creators on the platform, period, point blank. And I mean that in every sphere of YouTube. I mean that as, if put her up against any other channel and she's winning this. So yes, I'm coming from the perspective of a ContraPoints fan. Those of you who know me know I, back in the day, made a video, The Queen versus the Mob, about her. I believe she did an interview in New Yorker magazine with Jesse Singal, who is a TERF. And people were on her for that. She was platforming this TERF. Now, in reality, this TERF was platforming her. And it was an important conversation because it's a person who clearly has views that are anti-trans, coming up against a trans person, talking to them, getting their perspective. And whether or not you think that's important, I think that's important for the community as a whole, because there's no way that we are ever going to convince people or talk to people who don't understand what being trans means, who are afraid of it or whatever, who act adversely toward it. We're never going to be able to communicate with those people if we don't communicate with those people, right? If we don't go into spaces where they have audience, where they have viewership, if we don't go into their spaces and communicate. And I say we as in me, we advocates, and we trans people, so trans people and their advocates, if we together don't go into their spaces and talk to them, then we are not going to be able to communicate to people who don't come to our spaces about the experiences and the lives of trans people. Okay. So that was what that video was about in the past. Now here's part two. So now we have an incident where she has, I shouldn't say incident because that has all kinds of implications, but now we have now we have an event where she has had this person who is kind of on the outs with the trans community in her video for voiceover. And people are calling for her head once again, because people are always calling for the queen's head, right? Here's how I feel about it. I watched a little bit of Vosh V's video, and I'm not I feel indifferent toward Vosh V. And one thing that I do agree with was this notion that people are hurling abuse at Contra. That one thing I saw was, I really was watching the video for her clip, for this clip from this unlisted Patreon stream. And what I saw, what I heard her saying was that she's demoralized, that she's tired, that she feels silenced. And that has always been my worry. I advocated for her. She had a tweet more recently. Like in the last few months, that people interpreted as anti-non-binary, and she just was like, you know what? If I was wrong, I was wrong, but I got to leave this space, being Twitter, because I can't deal with this. And I said, I don't think that that's where she, I didn't think that she was being anti-non-binary. I think that she communicates those issues well. I think that, she has thoughts, she has hot takes, and she says the wrong thing sometimes. And that happens. That happens to all of us. Okay. That when she returns, I'd be happy to see her, per usual. Right? Once again, we're in a point where I look at the world, I look at the political space as a war. Always have, always will, because I don't give a shit. I hear a lot of white guys go, oh, that's LARPing. But when you're brown in America, when you're brown in a majority white space, when you're trans in a majority cis space, you're at war. And when you're not just at war with the external world, you're at war internally. I fight the war every day in my body, in my mind. Every day I fight the war externally and internally. And when your best warrior is being subject to bullshit, we're not talking about legit criticism where, Contra may, be a fan of this person and talks about them from that perspective, and maybe that individual does not deserve her reverence. Okay? Maybe that's the case. And that's a legitimate criticism, because I'm not making a judgment about her necessarily. I'm not I'm not calling her a TERF. I'm not calling her true scum. I am simply saying that maybe that person does not deserve her reverence. Maybe that person is a shitty individual that, maybe she shouldn't stand for. Okay? But that doesn't make Contra a bad person. And our best warrior, one of our best communicators, in a world where the war is fought via words, the war is fought via communication, our best communicator is constantly at war with our community, because you have a bunch of people who want her to be a TERF, who want her to be true scum, who want her to disassociate and who want her to be disassociated from the rest of the community and excommunicated from the rest of the community because she has a few hot takes every now and again and maybe is a stan of someone who doesn't deserve that. That's not a reason for excommunication. I just got your we got Videodrome TV version. Honey, I'm getting your chat right now. Videodrome TV version, Videodrome, si patron, is saying, oh yeah, we need Contra, or at least I think we needed what she started. Is she good at all at organizing? I'm going to read your second and I'm going to answer that. I just personally see that she doesn't listen to the good faith people saying that her work with Buck Angel hurts them. People who I think want to work with her stay following her. I will answer. So let me address the first part. Let me address the first part of your chat with your question. Is she good at organizing? No. Contra that's not her job, right? I think too, like lefties, we have a thing, we're not good at kind of seeing people at what their specific good thing is. What Contra does well is she communicates our objectives, what we believe, what we want from the world extraordinarily well. And what Contra does the best is convince people who are either on the fence or in the camp of being our opponents of our points. Contra is an effective converter. To put it in different terms, Contra is a priest. Contra is able to communicate what we believe in a way that is convincing, both visually and articulated. If I don't believe she doesn't acknowledge, and I want to make sure that I'm replying to you in a way that's fair. I think she does listen to people in good faith, who are good faith saying to her, I don't agree with this. You're working with this person hurts me. She was able to say, you know what? I distance myself from this individual because I see now I don't agree with their tweets. I don't agree with the things that they said. And I don't fuck with the allegations against them. Right. But at the same time, does she still have a certain level of fangirly type reverence for them? Sure. And is that not the best thing? No, it's not the best thing. This person may have been great in the 80s and 90s and may have done some pivotal work, but now is not, but they are extraordinarily problematic in other ways. And it's difficult when someone has laid good groundwork, but then they turn out to be assholes. That's why I'm kind of glad Martin Luther King and Malcolm X got shot when they did, because now they're not living into their 70s and 80s and 90s and fucking up the things that they laid groundwork for. Sometimes it's better that you do die. All right. I know that sounds harsh, but that's what it is, because then you can't go back and fuck your legacy over. But unfortunately, this person has fucked over their legacy by doing shitty things to the community and saying shitty things about non-binary people that are simply not true. So in that way, she has addressed those criticisms, and she has attempted to distance herself as best as she can. Now, could she go further? I'm sure that she could. But I think that she's attempted to address good faith criticisms as best as she can. Remember that she's also coming off of another recent controversy that just demoralized her. She was off of Twitter that last time, the last issue she got into on Twitter. And it was over a hot take. I have seen people have worse takes than she has, and nobody says a goddamn word to them. Okay. But she's bigger, so she's a bigger target, etc. And so, honey, now I'm looking over at the chat, so let me read what Misha says. Misha Romo, I think it's hard to listen to good faith criticism because it's mixed in with a lot of bad. She's on the defensive, and when people are on the defensive, they don't listen. I think she's tried. I think she's done her best to listen to what people are saying. I think that's another strength of hers, because if I were in, and this is one of the reasons I wanted to make this video, because I haven't been back in a while. It's been a long time, and I know it's been a lot, and we will talk about it. We will fucking talk about it. But one thing that I wanted to say was, if I was in Contra's position, I couldn't have handled it with the grace that she handled it with. She's been extraordinarily graceful, because I would have fucking fired. I would have found the biggest one of these people who was not lobbing criticism at me, but was calling me a TERF, was calling me a true scum, was calling for my friends to disassociate with me. I would find the biggest one of those motherfuckers, and I'd let loose on that person. I would look at them and be like, okay, fuck the dumb shit. What do you do for the community, my dear? Where do you spend your money? Where do you spend your activism? Where do you spend your time? What you making? Show me your YouTube. How many subscribers you got? How much money you put into your YouTube? How much credit card debt did you go in to make your YouTube channel work? How much activism do you commit to on a daily basis? How much money you put into that activism, motherfucker? And then when they stuck mode and ain't got shit to say, hi Dusty. And then when they stuck mode and ain't got shit to say, I would continue to fucking destroy them. I would beat up on that person mercilessly. If I'm ContraPoints, I would architect the greatest drama video you've ever seen. And I would spend all day, I would spend a solid 25 minutes tearing that person to absolute shreds. And it would not feel bad when all my followers showed up and continued to turn that person, continued to tear that person to fucking shreds. Because you're going to sit here and call me a TERF, and I fucking sit here and work my ass off every fucking day for my people, for trans people, for brown people, for as many human beings as I can help. I'm the most effective communicator. I'm the one who's out here getting the press. I'm the one who's out here having to represent us as a group. I'm the one who's out here having to keep my lip shut and not say shit so that I can maintain good PR. You're gonna sit here and call me a fucking TERF? I ought to fucking tear you a new asshole, my dude. Misha Rama, I'm with you. I would not handle it well. I wouldn't handle it well, but I guarantee they're not coming after me again. And one thing is, you got to be careful about about the person you become on the internet. You have to be very careful to cultivate a certain type of image. I can say whatever the fuck I want to online. You know why? Because everyone knows how fucking vicious I am. They see me tweet. They know I will tear you apart. Piece by fucking piece if I want to. And so I don't get a lot of shit because people know, one, I'm brown, so no one wants to get called out for trying to call out the brown girl. And two, I don't get into needless drama with people, so I don't get a lot of shit. And three, if someone tries to play me, I will tear them apart. I've done it on several occasions, and will continue, particularly on Twitter, because I learned from the best. I learned to cultivate an image of viciousness so that people don't come fucking with you in the wrong way. And so Dusty said, and I think this is important to throw in the mix, so I'm going to say this, and we're going to go back to Contra a little bit. So Dusty said, this is why I don't even think about starting on video making. Video Joe agrees, and so does Misha. And this is the problem. And not you guys, I appreciate you. This is one of the issues why we don't have as many soldiers as the right does. Because we are not cultivating an atmosphere where people feel welcome enough to want to express their opinions, because they feel like I have that one wrong take, and the next thing I know, I'm getting shit from everybody and their mother. That does not help us. Unfortunately, the right has an advantage over us ideologically, because the right believe in authoritarianism. They know who their leaders are. And they don't, and it doesn't, and you might get some minor attacks here and there, but for the most part, for every 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 right-wingers who go after a Sargon of Akkad, they're not only significantly smaller than Sargon of Akkad, but he'll have 1,000 people destroy them before he ever says anything. So, because they are authoritarian, they protect their leaders without question. Because we are anti-authority, effectively, a lot of the left is anti many forms of authority, either legitimate or illegitimate. We tend not to have the same rallying point. So we tend not to view like protecting our leaders as a good thing. We tend to view that as insulating them from criticism, as opposed to getting rid of people who are just abusing them, right? So, and mind you, y'all, I'm doing all this before work. So back to Contra. The crux of this video is why we need Contra. Contra is one of the most effective communicators on the internet. ContraPoints makes some of the most visually appealing videos on the internet. She makes some of the most visually compelling videos on the internet. Point fucking blank. Of anybody. If tomorrow someone made me the CEO of YouTube, I'd sit PewDiePie in a room and tell him, listen, You're a fuck up. I don't like you particularly. I think you make trash content. And if you fuck up one more time and you appeal to Nazis one more fucking time, I'm going to fucking ban your channel and I'm going to put all my energy into ContraPoints because that bitch goes. And you don't see ContraPoints. And I'll put you like this, where PewDiePie be getting into those big media scuffles. You don't see that from Contra. We might want to fight her, but you don't be seeing fucking hot takes of Contra in the fucking New York Times, do you? We need someone who is able to communicate to people who we don't like or agree with our point of view, because we are ideological. We don't tend to like to communicate with people who don't share our views, because what tends to happen is they treat us in bad faith, which is a whole nother thing we're going to talk about in a minute. So we don't tend to like to communicate with the right. We don't tend to like to communicate with like the light right. We don't like to deal with the center either, right? So we tend not to want to communicate with people who either don't understand our view or we think are going to engage with us in bad faith. Contra is able to engage with those people and to get them to listen to our arguments and our point of view. That is immensely important. It is immensely important that she is able to feel like she can continue to do that without, oh my God, I'm going to make a misstep and somebody's going to fucking jump on my ass. And the next thing you know, everybody on Twitter is going to be on my ass. Right? I felt like that. I certainly, you don't know how many tweets I have sitting in the draft bin right now. Right? One of the reasons I was like, I'm done with Twitter right now was I started to feel like, oh my God, I cannot be myself. I started to feel like I cannot be myself. I cannot, say the things I want to say because I'm going to get jumped all over by people who don't know me, who are going to who, to quote Contra, are going to take a collection of tweets and say, this is who the LadyColumbia is. And I didn't want to, and that fear was overwhelming at the time. I just did not want to deal with it. And I kind of still don't. I kind of still don't want to deal with it. My online life is kind of withering because I'm engaging more in my real life, and I am, I use work as an excuse, but I don't know. There's something about it I just don't want to deal with. So back to Contra. She's one of the most effective people we have in the space, right? One of the most effective communicators, particularly to people that we don't want to necessarily deal with. And she is good at reinforcing the things that we believe. She sparked, we'll watch a Contra video of my boyfriend and I who, we're lefties. And we'll have engaging conversations about ideology or the topic of the video or the last video, Opulence, had a nice engaging discussion about that. I think that she not only causes engaging discussions for people who don't agree with her or us, but she causes engaging conversations for people who do agree. And on top of that, she's able to communicate gender issues in a way that are understandable, that are not only easy for us to understand, but easy for us to copy, paste, and then, use in regular conversation with regular old folk in the world. And she's able to communicate gender issues in a way that is easy for the right and people who are like light right to understand. So they can be like, well, maybe I was wrong about trans people. Maybe I was wrong about non-binary. Maybe I'm non-binary people. Maybe I don't understand what's happening here. And maybe she's right. She is able to raise that doubt in people about their own points of view without challenging them so much that they feel like, oh, fuck you, I don't deal with you. Because I'm going to tell you something. One thing that we're bad at is and just generally across the board, everybody guilty, is we don't engage, we don't tend to engage with people in a way that makes them feel like maybe I'm wrong, right? We don't raise doubt. We tend to be accusatory. Like, I'll give you an example. You're on Twitter and you see a guy say something like, it's okay to be white. And they're not saying it ironically, or they're not saying it in a way that's meant to just, quote, trigger the libs. They're saying it in a way that they agree with the sentiment. right? And you say, well, you're racist. Saying someone is racist is an indictment of them and their entire cognition. Once you call someone a racist, once you call someone a transphobe, once you say that is what they are, they can't escape that, right? That is a statement of totality. You are a transphobe. You are a racist. But to say that your statement was racist or your statement was transphobic is a different statement entirely. Now you're not making a judgment of their cognition. Now you're simply saying, hey, you said this thing and it's racist. You, on the other hand, have the potential to not be racist. You have the potential to be not a racist person, but simply misunderstanding an issue, or not, maybe you don't have enough information about an issue. You give a person the wiggle room not to be a complete and utter dick, but to raise doubt about what they're saying. And Contra is very good at raising doubt about what people are saying without indicting the entirety of their being, without saying you are a blank, you and your cognition is blank. Okay. Because one thing that the right has been able to do is, well, you guys call everyone and everything racist, right? And that is because a lot of, not every leftist does this, but a lot of lefties will see someone say something racist and then call someone racist. And then that whole site, they've been able to capitalize on how we argue or how we use certain words. What Contra is able to do is to raise doubt in people's minds about their ideology, about their views on things, without creating the indictment. And that's important when you're trying to convince people of what you believe. A lot of times on the internet, lefties are having bad faith arguments with right wingers, i.e. the right are engaging in bad faith with us. So we have gotten hardened, we've gotten battle hardened, and so we are used to dealing with them with an iron fist. Contra doesn't. Contra acts as if they're all innocent until proven guilty. Now, those people who are professional dickheads, like your Ben Shapiro's or your Dave Rubin's or what have you, she treats them with the vitriol that they deserve. But your everyday, on the ground, maybe fan of those people, she doesn't. She often treats them as if they are just, let me try to convince you of what I'm saying, darling. And she's very, almost kid glove with them. Okay, because what she wants to do is to raise doubt in their minds and force them to think about and talk about an issue and to think about whether they're right or wrong. That is imperative to what we are trying to do as lefties, because what we are trying to do on the whole is to convince people that an economic system that has been in place for the last 200 years or more than 200 years is wrong. We are trying to convince people that a political system that has been in place for the last 200 to 300 years is wrong. And if you're going to convince someone that they're wrong, you ain't going to do it by indicting them. You're going to do it by raising doubt. That is why she is imperative. That's one of the reasons she is imperative. Okay. She's also one of the most well-educated lefties we have. And we are talking about extraordinarily complex issues. We're also talking about issues that are surrounded by social science that is extraordinarily new, right? So you were talking about dealing with complex data and new data. And that can sometimes be difficult for an average Joe, even a person with an associate's or even a bachelor's, to interpret. So you have a person who is able to take this data and interpret it in a way and then regurgitate it to an audience in a way that is digestible. That is incredibly important, because again, lefties as a whole, we're talking about economics, one of the most complex and boring topics you could ever fucking talk about. So the fact that she can interpret complex data and then talk about it to an audience in a way that's engaging and that is digestible is incredibly important. That now, all of her importance does not mean that she is above criticism. I think that is what, and that tends to be what we think. oh, okay, if someone is important, if someone is, if someone's in a position of authority, which is why a lot of us are anti-authority, we tend to think that, oh, okay, if someone's in a position of authority, they're above criticism and they're above scolding. They're not. She's not. No one is. I'm not. Nobody is. You're not. No one is above it. Okay? But what I am saying is that she is above being labeled as a TERF or true scum or any of that bullshit because she has a hot take or she says some bullshit in a video. Because what we see, or because she has an asshole in a video, what we see of Contra is a small percentage of what she is and who she is. And we all have hot takes. We all deserve the benefit of the doubt. In my mind, we treat her with this in a lot of ways. She is being treated by many people. I won't say we as a totality, but in a lot of ways, she is being treated. I gotta go to work soon, y'all. So I'm like staring at the time. She is being treated with the same level of vitriol and anger as we would treat one of our enemies, and that ain't right. You always treat people who agree with you with a kindness that you don't treat your enemies with. Hey, Micro says, yeah, this thing is a peak parasocial relationships. It is. Because we are seeing people who think that simply because they follow her tweets or follow her videos or see her in media, that they know the totality of who Natalie is, and they don't. So from Videodrome, and we're gonna go back to chat for a minute. Are the people who Contra has any power to convert any real threat to the powers who always move the goalposts culturally, etc., to new arguments to keep their alt-right centrist followers in check? I think she does. She is moving people who it's not about moving necessarily people in power. Right? She's not changing Dave Rubin's mind. And sorry if I'm misinterpreting your question. If you want to roll it back to me, let me try that one. They are because what people in power always need are people to rule over. So if she's not converting your Dave Rubins or your Ben Shapiro's, she is converting their fans. She is converting people, and I use that in quotes. She is converting people who are not only potential fans, but she is converting people who are converting. She's converting people who are potentially new adherents to them or current fans of them. And that's incredibly important. If they're going to survive, they constantly need a new stream of fans to be listening to them, to be listening to them talk, to be listening to them and interpreting and saying, yeah, they're right, and to stand for them. Okay? If you start drawing those people away, slowly but surely, okay, if you start drawing those people away from them, then they have less of a flock to rule over. They have less followers, they have less clout, and they have less power. So the fewer followers they have, the less likely they are to get invited back to Fox News. The less likely they are to get invited onto big platforms. The less likely they are to have articles written about them, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I think that she's not necessarily pulling people who are powerful, who have gained the power. She is pulling the group that make them powerful. And that is important. Micro says you got to start somewhere. I agree. Remember, the alt-right are our enemies. Enemies are different than opponents. You're always vying with your opponents for power. There's always a back and forth. Conservatives are our opponents. We're always going to be going back and forth with them as to who is in power and who isn't, especially in any democratic system. That's just what's going to happen. Okay? Sometimes we'll be in power. Sometimes they'll be in power. And right now, leftists are not in power. Leftists are building a movement that could potentially be in power soon, but we are not currently in power. You have people like AOC who have reached that level, but you don't have a mass of people who are in power. The alt-right are our enemies. They are to be crushed. They're to be destroyed, right? You're not trying to vie with them for power. You're trying to outright destroy them. And again, Contra is in a place where, the destruction of the alt-right is not necessarily her purview. Her purview is to do as she does, to make the content that she wants to make and to attempt to relay our points and our arguments to people who don't necessarily agree with us, right? But to raise that doubt in people's minds to the point where at least maybe they go look up something by one of us. Maybe they watch someone else's video who's in the left sphere. Maybe they simply think about, well, am I right about this? She is great at raising that doubt that leads to people saying, you know what, I was wrong about being on the alt-right, or I was wrong about these people, or I was wrong about this. And that's way more important. I don't need to convert Dave Rubin to what we believe. He's not useful to us, right? He's tainted. He's got their stank on him now. He's not useful to me. But the young kid who's 18, 19 years old, feels kind of disaffected, who is, I gotta lotion up, who is disaffected, who sees the right and is intrigued by that. If he says, you know what, and he sees a few ContraPoints videos and says, you know what, I don't think I want to be involved with those people, that's a victory won. That kid is a victory won. And in some ways, way more important than winning the victory over capturing a person like Dave Rubin or Ben Shapiro. Because all they'll ever be are stands anyway. All they'll ever be are people who are espousing an ideology for profit. They'll never be true believers, nor will they ever be people that we who have been lefties will ever actually accept. Okay? So I don't give a shit about people in power. I give a shit about their followers. That's who I want. That's who I think we want in terms of who we're trying to influence, who we're trying to talk to, who we're trying to raise doubt amongst. Okay. So I think, one video I've wanted to make, and I keep saying it in live streams and I never get a stepping stone. There you go, Dusty, a stepping stone. One video I've been wanting to make and just cannot, not that I can't find the time or the effort, but I'm in a space where I don't want to make the video because I don't want to get accused of you're a bad leftist, is about the problems we have. Because I'm a person who believes this. I don't give a shit about my enemies or my opponents and what problems they have or what they're doing sometimes. Sometimes that's irrelevant. Right? Because our opponents, our opponents on the right and our enemies on the right effectively do the same things over and over and over and over again. Right? And so you could have 30 YouTubers who are effectively making the same videos over and over and over again because they use the same, their opponents use the same rhetoric. Their opponents say the same things. Their opponents believe the same things. I think that we need to focus on ourselves. I think that if Contra is an example of anything, I think it's time that lefties take a good long look at themselves from center to far and have a conversation about who we are, what we want, and what's necessary for us to win. Is winning even in the cards for us? Is that even a goal for us? Are we out to win the Great War? Here's my question to all leftists, all lefties, all along the spectrum. Do you want to fight the Great War or do you want to win it? Because there's a difference between fighting a war and being a fighter and winning a war. You can fight the Valhalla-like war, the eternal war, forever, right? But do you want to win? Because winning takes different strategies than just fighting. And if we're out to win the Great War, if we're out to win the war between the haves and the have-nots, if we're out to win the war to end capitalism, if we're out to win the war for a new type of socio-political order, then we have to do things a hell of a lot differently than we're doing them now. But one reason I don't make the video, even though I want to, even though I have tons of notes about what I want to talk about, one of the reasons I'm not making the video right this very fucking moment is because if y'all start dogpiling me, I'm not fucking ContraPoints. I don't have some legacy or credibility to lose. I will cuss each and every one of you out. I will find you and all of your friends, and I will cuss you right the fuck out. And I promise you, you won't know who the bad leftist is after fucking around with me. Because I ain't ContraPoints. And she, as much as I love her, that ain't my YouTube idol. No child. And my YouTube idol, Richard the Dick Coughlin, whom I love, whom I owe a hello to because I know he's pissed off. He hasn't seen me in so long, and I really do owe some time to. And I've spent an hour making this video because I'm pissed off because he hasn't seen me in God knows how long, and I haven't spent an hour with his ass in a while. Is Coughlin always, one thing about Coughlin that I always appreciated was he was vicious. He didn't give a fuck. He'd tear you apart whoever fuck you were. And still do. And still don't give a fuck. And still tear you apart whoever fuck you are. And that is something that you have to be. You have to be willing to be vicious against your own if you're going to survive this. And one thing I wish Contra was a little more was vicious. I wish she wasn't turning this inward as much. I wish she was willing to externalize this a little bit and just say, you know, if I'm already in trouble, let me just fucking be in trouble and let me just fucking fire. All right? Because I can, as your stand, I can only do so much, darling. But I wish to God she would just fire. And just say, you know what? You ain't shit. I don't have to listen to you because you don't do shit. All right? And when you start doing shit, maybe I'll start listening to your motherfucking ass. Like, I want her to have just a little bit of Cersei Lannister. Just give me a little fire and blood. Because if you give them a little fire and blood, you really come down on them with the hammer of hammers. I promise you. They'll get off your ass. Once they know that you'll fucking fire on them, they'll get off your ass. Because that's how we are. But we need Contra. We need her like, we need her like the air we breathe. We need her ass. Because without her, we lose one of our best communicators. Not to mention one of our most famous members. Because Contra has broken through. She has what I like to call transcended. She's transcended from the internet and is now a figure who is in mainstream media. That is importante. Okay? Because we have a view that is difficult to mainstream. We have views that do not get airtime in the mainstream media. So now we have someone who is getting that type of view, who is getting that type of attention. And again, we're tearing her ass to shreds. Again, she's not above criticism. She is above abuse. And to call her a turf, to call her half the shit that she has been hurled at her is abusive. And niggas can get on my ass if they want to. They can send me tweets if they want to. They gonna get their ass fired on. If they want to start hurling that abuse at me, they know where to find me at the LadyColumbia. You can find me right here. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me GooglePlus. You can find me any defunct platform they make. You can find me. Go out and find me, cause I'm not Contra, honey. I ain't got shit else. I ain't got shit to lose, honey. You want to come find me and try to hurl that shit at me, you going to find a whole different animal than you used to, child. Yeah, I don't even know how she excludes herself. Hold on, let me show this message. I don't know how she excludes herself. I don't know. Microorganism says turf doesn't even make sense. How does she exclude herself? I don't know. Turf is just a generic. I think turf is transformed from a very specific person to just kind of a generally transphobic person, I think, as in terms of vernacular. Dusty says a lot of it is professional jealousy. Some of it is out in the open about it. Oh, hell yeah. Some of it is like Contra's the biggest one. Okay, I'm gonna fight her. And as I said earlier, she's a big content creator. She's got a bigger target. Gorilla. So what's the drama about this time? And how the fuck can some people call ContraPoints a turf? Child. So to recap, the drama this time is that she has had an individual called Buck Angel do a VO in her video, her most recent video, Opulence. Great video. You should go see it. Buck Angel was a big activist in the trans community in the 80s and 90s. He was, I'm sorry, I keep saying he, but I don't know their gender identification. So they were, forgive me, guys, forgive me, because I'm big on that. I'm big on that in real life, and I'm big on that on the internet. People should be called what they want to be called, male. Thank you, darling. They were, I'm going to still say they, because but I appreciate that, Dusty. They were big in the 80s and 90s as trans activists. They used trans medicalism at a time. Thank you. Buck is male. He used trans medicalism at a time when that was the best argument to use to validate trans people. And, but now that is no longer the case. Also, he has been accused of, and I believe this is true, of scamming trans people out of, much needed funds. So he is definitely in the very problematic figure range. Okay. Contra had him do VO in a video. She is clearly a fan of him, and that has sparked a controversy. Now, Contra, she has come out recently in an unlisted Patreon stream and talked about how she does not agree with his tweets. She doesn't agree with his because he's a non-binary. He also is kind of anti-non-binary. She has also come out and said that she denounces his anti-non-binary tweets and his problematic behavior. And she has said that, she don't fuck with it. Right. But it's clear, like, she's still a fan of this person's work prior to them being problematic, which is fine. I'm not a person who believes you give up the music with the artist. I tend to believe that, I'm not a Melisandre in this regard. You're very welcome, Gorilla. Yeah, you got to give that to him. He was a good John Waters. I think you have to. I'm a person who very much divorces the art from the artist. I'm a person who very much believes that problematic people make great things, and sometimes you take the good with the bad. Because if we were to sit here and say that your problematic behavior means that I can't enjoy your art, how much of human expression then becomes effectively invalid? Because damn near every artist is problematic. They're racist, they're homophobic, they're sexist, they're fucking, how many artists is that? Sorry guys, again, I gotta go to work, so I'm like, I'm like on my phone, like I didn't get no text messages, did I? I'm a person who very much believes that in a lot of cases, you have to divorce a person's personal views and their own bullshit from the things that they create. Because people create beautiful works, but they're absolute dickheads. Look at Wagner. Wagner created The Ride of the Valkyries, a song I very much love. But Wagner was a proto-fascist, all right, and was beloved by fascists, right? Does that mean that Wagner's work shouldn't be held in high esteem? No, but it does mean that Wagner himself should not be. Assholes create great art sometimes. Assholes do important things sometimes. Assholes benefit the cause sometimes. People who are problematic, people who suck like shit. There you go, Gorilla. People who suck like shit, people who are pieces of shit, do important things for certain communities sometimes. And you have to eat it. You just have to live with that. And that's hard. That's in a lot of ways, that's much more complicated than saying, well, throw the baby out with the bathwater. That person was problematic, then fuck their work. Yeah, John Lennon was a piece of shit. But, am I still going to listen to Imagine on the way to work? Yeah, maybe. I do think it's ridiculous to throw the artist out with the artist, or the art out with the artist, or the legacy out with the person, right? People created the country in which I live and make my money in and I love. They were racist pieces of shit who owned my people. That doesn't necessarily, I don't love them, but I appreciate the thing that they built because I live in it and it's mine. It's where my family is from. It's where my friends are from. It's where I'm from, right? I mean, it just is what it is. I can't go back and change their mind and say, hey, guess what, Thomas Jefferson, you're a piece of shit. You know, they're dead. A lot of these people who we are like, oh, you know, this person is problematic. It's one thing when a person is living because you can maybe convince them. You can make, you know, you can try to talk to them, talk them out of it. But when a person's dead, they're fucking dead. There's no making a dead person a better person. But I don't think that Contra is a person who is a shitty person who makes great art. I think she's a decent person from what I know of her, both online and offline. I think she's a decent person because I know people closely who know her as a person, right? I think she's a decent person who occasionally has a hot take but makes great art. I think we're too hard on the poor girl, to be honest with you. I think we're way too hard on her. I think that we are not hard enough on the people who are treating her like shit. Hold on, let me show some messages here, guys. Thank you. DMX is a horrible fucking person, but I'm still gonna bump. Y'all gonna make me lose my mind up in here. Yeah, but fuck, his voice is awesome and he can rap. You damn right about that, Gorilla. Microbloggers, we don't bulldoze cathedrals because the Catholic Church fucks kids. Again, agreed. But microbloggers makes a great point. We don't destroy Catholic churches because Catholics are dickheads and who fuck kids. All right, we don't do that. So I think that, yeah, we are too hard on Contra. Earthmother.com says agree 100%. Thank you. You're very welcome, Earth Mother Priestess. I think that we're too damn hard on Contra. And I think that when we want to make criticisms of our own, we need to learn to be more charitable to each other. We don't have to be charitable to our enemies. I don't have to be fucking charitable to Dave Rubin. I don't have to be charitable to Ben Shapiro or Stefan Molyneux. Be charitable to those assholes. I can be an asshole to them because fuck them. They've proven themselves unworthy of my charity. But to our own who do good work for us, we can give them the benefit of the doubt. We can treat them charitably, right? And if they turn out to be utter assholes or, you know, sexual offenders, then you can hammer them when you find the shit out. But not before, right? Not before. Not before you find out they're terrible people. You don't get to hammer them before that. And Contra has not proven herself to be anti-non-binary. She's not proven herself to be a TERF. She's not proven herself to be true scum. She's proven herself to be an intellectual individual who has a good grasp of gender identity, who has a good grasp, like I have a better grasp, who has a professional understanding of gender identity and who can communicate those issues to people who need to hear them. She has proven herself to be more than down for the cause. And I don't think that she is secretly a TERF, secretly a Nazi, secretly, or openly any of those things. I think that she says some shit. Okay, next. But she is not the problem here. I think the people who are willing to call her a TERF openly are the fucking problem here. If you're asking me, they're the ones who should be excommunicated. I don't give a shit if they're rocking 20, 30,000 followers. Get rid of them. They're the problem here because they care more about their own ideological purity. They care more about their own bullshit than they do the cause. And anyone, me, you, anybody who cares more about pressing their own personal issues than they care about the totality of the cause, then excommunicate them. The cause is all that matters. The war is all that matters. We are all expendable when it comes to the war, when it comes to winning the war for the end of things like racism, sexism, transphobia, ending the oppression that capitalism can bring, ending corruption in our economic and political systems. When it comes to that war, the great war, the only war there's ever been, everybody's expendable. Everybody is expendable. But when you find somebody who's out here fighting greater than Beowulf, they're not. Contra isn't expendable. But every low-level soldier, myself, the great pirate Solomon, we're expendable. You can find 2 more like us. Not exactly, but you can find 2 more like us. But not, I didn't put on the crown for this, goddammit. But Contra is not expendable. I could go out here and look for 100 years and go find other Contra points. And Micro says Ben doesn't need charity. He needs a cherry picker. Damn right. Gorilla says she's a person with a lot of nuances. That's how most people are. It's true. We all have a lot of idiosyncrasies and nuances, and we all say dumb shit. Right? Be charitable, because that could be you at the other end of that shit. And one day, if you fuck around me long enough, it might just be. And I'm not as kind as Contra. I'm a mean bitch. So, I have said everything I'm going to say on the topic. It's good to be back. It's good to see you guys. I know I stand for Contra. I know it. But she's the goddamn queen. All right? In my mind, she is the one doing it. She's the one doing the best at what we do. She is the one I look at for she's one of the people I look at for inspiration. She's one of the people that I would love to be as intelligent as. She is a person that I even find myself slightly jealous of. I even told my boyfriend, like, I'm in too much of a mood. I can't watch Contra. I'm too jealous. And then I'd be like, bitch, if you don't stop, bitch. I was in there beaming like, bitch, if you don't stop, he's so good. So the last few comments are, she's without a doubt helped a lot of people get more nuanced perspectives on what it means to be trans, and she's illustrated a great deal of other important issues too. Agree with that, Gorilla. It's good to see you too, Micro. So, I will say this, and I mean it this time. I'm signing off. Yeah, she does have that bitch. I hate that bitch because she be looking good. I be like, oh, I can't with you. I love you too much. She does have nice legs too. So, this has been great. I have missed you guys, so I am so glad to have kind of come back on an issue that I'm hot on. We're gonna make some fucking videos. I'm gonna try to maybe do more live shit because I look atrocious, but I'm still feeling the way I look today. So I'm gonna try to do more videos. Y'all know me. So I'll be seeing you soon. Good night, good morning, and good afternoon. Can't see me wink, but I'm winking. Well, I'll take 2 more. I'll take these last 2 comments before I leave. I just can't imagine Natalie has any decent excuse for palling around with Buck Angel when people have paid attention to his work against non-binary people, certain trans people. Instant karma, imagine equals my/room temperature take. Come on. Yeah, okay, instant karma probably is better than imagine. I'll give you that. Palling around with is an interesting word. I don't know that she pals around with him. I can't say that I know that for sure. I will say though that sometimes you have friends who are problematic, right? Who hold views that you don't agree with. But you stay friends with them and you kick it with them because you can convince them. It'll take some time, but you'll convince them. You know, you love that person outside of their views. Yeah, they have shitty views and you don't agree with them. It's sort of like that uncle who you love, but you know, that nigga ain't thought about politics since 1968 and he still thinks that black people shouldn't be getting the same jobs as white people. You still love your uncle. You just don't want to talk to him about fucking politics, right? You know, you just don't talk to your uncle about racial politics. In that way, you know, and as I said, I don't know if they pal around together. According to Micro, they had a professional relationship, which I believe, because that's kind of the way she talked about it. And herself as a fan of his work, but not necessarily of him as a human being. And I think those are 2 things that have to be divorced. Is he a shitty person? Yeah, hell yeah. If he believes, stop. If he believes shitty shit, then he's, you know, if he believes shitty shit about non-binary people, yeah, he's kind of a shitty person, right? But old people, you know, I don't trust nobody over 35, including me when I hit 35 and, you know, my own boyfriend. I'm just kidding. But if he has shitty views, he does. But I don't think that she is like best friends with him, pounding around with him. But at the same time, I believe that you have people in your life who don't agree with you, who have shit views, and sometimes it becomes your job to convince that person otherwise. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with you having shitty people in your life as long as your attempt is, okay, I know this person, maybe I like their personality, maybe I think they're really funny, but they just have shitty views. Maybe it becomes your job to try to say, okay, you know what? I'm gonna try to convince you. And if you can't, you can't. But disconnection is not always, and this is a point that Contra made, and I agree with this point, and I've been agreeing with it before she made it. Disconnection and severing a relationship is not always the best way to convince people of what you believe. The best way is to sometimes stick with a shitty person and say, and try to convince them day after day, month after month, year after year that they're wrong and that your way is the better way. All right. Sometimes that's the case. Life is not as simple as you don't believe what I believe, or you don't believe, or you're shitty. Goodbye. Sometimes you got to stick with shitty people because sometimes they can become better people. And to me, that is what I will always believe. Sometimes you got to try. Sometimes you give up on a motherfucker, but some people you don't. Gorilla says, and I'll end with this. I'm going to read this out even though it's narcissistic. With you in her corner, she's in a strong position. Thank you, Gorilla. All right, guys, I got to go. I got to go to work soon. I'll be seeing you soon. Good night, good morning, good afternoon. Yes, I want to.